Are you struggling to get things done? Do you lay out these great plans, or maybe you don't have any plans, you just have this idea, but you never seem to get any closer to it? Well, I'm glad you found me today because I'm going to discuss with you the top 3 reasons you are not getting what you want and why you are being ineffective. My name is Zandra and I'm the Color Code Coach. I have helped thousands of people figure out what they want and a plan to help them get to there using one of my favorite tools, which is the color code. I'm going to talk to you and run through you quickly. What are the top 3 reasons for each color, which is the your core motivation? And we find that there's 4 types of them. And I'm going to talk about why. 3 of them, the top 3 reasons you aren't getting what you want, and 3 ways that you can counteract this ineffectiveness. And I'm not going to leave you hanging because there is an assessment you can do. And I'm not going to try to sell it to you. I'm going to give it away for free. So if you want to know what your primary color is, your core motivation, drop the in the comment below, drop link, and we will make sure to get you a link pronto so that you can take this free assessment and figure out what your primary motivation is. So let's get down to business. My reds, they are motivated by power, moving things from A to B, logical generally, and controlling. They want to be in charge. So, my reds, what are the 3 things that are getting in your way from getting what you want and being effective? And usually when you're working with other people. 1, over controlling. You really got to stop micromanaging, my friend, and trust the people that you work with. Number 2, impatience. Reds really have this vision of where they want to go so that if we're not going as quickly as they are, they can run roughshod over us. You really need to be careful of that tendency with, especially when you're working with other people. And then finally, rigidity, believing that there is only one right way to get to the finish line. There are so many ways that you can get there, but the red needs to open up their mind, body, and soul that if one way isn't working, to stop and to look at a better way to do it. But also, not to beat up on the people around them. Okay. So, what are 3 things that you can do to counteract these tendencies? 1, delegate tasks to capable team members and trust their abilities. They're not going to do it exactly the same way as you, but they're going to bring their own kind of magic to it. 2, practice patience. Recognize that some tasks are going to require effort, training, learning, right? And just generally somebody doing it over and over again before they're going to be able to be really competent on it. So you can keep complaining about it forever, or you can let somebody else begin that learning process. And then finally, be open to new ideas and adapt when necessary. Embrace change and realize that change and looking at a new direction is a total opportunity for growth. My blues, you value intimacy. You are all about relationships and making connections. You are controlling and you are emotional. So, what are the 3 things that are getting in the way of you from being the most effective that you can? 1, perfectionism. Blues spend way too much time waiting and trying to create the perfect thing before they let it rip out into the world. You are costing yourself time. It's time to just get moving and get the project done. All right. Number 2, avoidance of conflict. Blues are super about the heart based connection with people. So, what they'll do is either to maintain harmonious relationships with people, they will either not tell people what they need. They may wait until they blow up before they say what they need. And so it's really important for blues to really be communicating what they want. But also, if you're annoyed with people, to talk about it in a productive, supportive way rather than just letting it build up until you freak out. Because people don't understand it. They go, "What happened to blue? They were so nice and kind, and now they're being a jerk." But really, it's our own inability to face confrontation. So it's super important to be able to lean in. Number 3, our difficulty to say no. We want to help everybody. And really, that is causing you to say no to your own goals. When you say yes to everyone else's goals, you are saying no to your own goals. So, what are you going to do about all this stuff? 1, you need to set realistic standards for yourself. There isn't perfection. You need to be good enough sometimes so that you don't delay your progress and the project. Number 2, develop conflict resolution skills and communicate openly and honestly when issues arise. And Don't be afraid to go back, because we'll get afraid and go, oh gosh, we already talked about it once. I don't want to. No, if you need to go back and rehash it again, you need to do it, but take ownership of those feelings and don't lead with your non-energizing emotions. You want to go in with a clear head, calm, and an agenda to get through it. And then finally, you want to learn to set boundaries and say no when necessary. You don't want to burn out, and you want to really maintain your focus on your most important priorities, right? Your MIPS, we got to make sure. So focus on those things. My whites, my Yodas of the color code, you are motivated by peace, internal and external. You are really good at weighing options and looking at things from a whole bunch of different perspectives. But what this does, because you are non-controlling and you are logical, so you are like a Einstein, you can just keep going back to the drawing board and doing it over and over again. What can happen and what's holding you back? Procrastination. Whites can have a tendency to delay making decisions because they want more information to make sure that they're not making the wrong decision. So, and they want to maintain peace and avoid conflict. So a lot of times making a decision isn't necessarily popular. So they want to avoid that. Number two, indecisiveness. You're, again, leading back to decision making. There can be that tendency to struggle making decisions, especially when there are multiple outcomes or multiple options or potential outcomes. Number three, difficulty setting priorities. Why whites can have a tendency to identify tasks which are most important, and then they get overwhelmed by too many choices. So it's super important. What do we do for our whites? And you can use this if you think you're working with a white as well. We need to break the task into smaller, manageable steps, okay, so that we can reduce the procrastination. What is the tiniest thing that whites can do to get started? Number two, practice decision making by setting deadlines, prioritizing, evaluating pros and cons. So really get comfortable with it in the day-to-day stuff. So when the big stuff comes up, you're not getting paralysis by analysis, right? Number three, use tools like to-do lists, prioritize tasks based on importance and urgency. All right. So you can use, your Google Calendar, a written calendar. You can use a Eisenhower matrix, like decision making, to help you prioritize what's most important. My yellows, motivated by fun, enthusiasm, energy. That's what they bring to the table. But they can also, this is what's hindering them from getting things done, because they are non-controlling and they are emotional. So non-controlling, they don't want to be in charge. So even more difficult to get things done. What are the things standing in their way? One, a lack of focus. Yellows may become easily distracted and by fun, by people, and just not really want to get into, especially if it's not fun, it's boring, or they don't like the people, right? They're going to get distracted by something else. So number two, impulsivity. Yellows act on impulsivity all the time. Why? Because it's fun and it leads to another path. And we are all about new experiences. But then that doesn't always lead us to productivity and to the right decision, to the right choice. And then finally, we can have a real difficulty with routine tasks. Oh God, repetitive or monotonous tasks, or things where people might say no or be unhappy with me. No, thank you. Really struggle to get engaged. All right. So again, not positive necessarily for moving our goals forward, but there's always something we can do. So what do my yellows need to do? They need to create a structured work environment with designated time for specific tasks to focus on. So usually do your hardest thing in the morning, set a clock. A Pomodoro method is really great. The Pomodoro method is super great. Set a timer, put a, just something to remind you, or have one of your coworkers say, I'm going to just close your door and then I'll come knock on it in 20 minutes and then you can take a break. So it's really important to set that time aside and create a schedule for yourself. Number two, and the schedule leads to number two, developing self-discipline to think before acting and consider the long-term consequences of our actions, but also the self-discipline to make a schedule and stick to it. That is what's going to move you through that lack of focus and that distraction. And then finally, find ways to make routine tasks more engaging. Play some music, find somebody fun to FaceTime with while you're doing dishes, listen to a podcast, put on a favorite YouTube, whatever that is, try to find some way to enjoy it. All right. And maybe it's part of being a team. That's generally too. Doing things on our own can be a real struggle. So maybe finding an effective team that are maybe based on some of the other colors that can bring some strength to some strategy and some structure to your work environment. Okay. I want you to remember though, no color is inherently better or worse at getting things done or being effective. They both have strengths, they both have challenges when it comes to setting goals and getting things done. But really, it's about recognizing the strengths and leveraging those strengths, right? And to find ways to work around the challenges that we have. Individuals can really enhance their effectiveness, though, about learning more about their core motivation and working on strategies to overcome those challenges. All right. So if you're interested, please comment link below, and I promise you we will get you a free link so that you can give the color code a whirl and see what your core motivation is and begin to change your future.